Ja, danke schön, vielen Dank. Thank you so much. I will speak in English. It's so much easier for me, and it will be better for you also. Trust me, if I don't try to do it in English. And I'm very happy to be here today. First time for me to join the Acatis conference, and so much inspiring talks already. So really humbled to be in this group of presenters. I will be talking about my company as well, but before I dive into that, I want to show you a bigger landscape of what I like to call, and not only me, deep technologies. Technologies focus on deeper science, deeper technologies development that can have a pretty significant impact on what will happen in the future. And from this deep technologies, we will have many cases of really big impacts that will be not touching just people in local areas, but they will be really global, but they will also create meaningful opportunities for value creation. So I will start with trying to explain what I mean by deep technologies, and that they possess an opportunity for being a great new wave of innovations. And the great wave of innovation is actually a title of a very interesting report that I strongly recommend to you by a Boston Consulting Group and Hello Tomorrow. And I will be showing you some slides that are inspired by this report. So let's start with saying what deep technologies really are. And they are a new wave of innovation. They are not starting just today. It's a longer period that we're already seeing it in the past, but it will be happening in the future. And just try to imagine what was happening with internet in the 90s. Yeah? Who would imagine how far it will go, how many things it will impact that we take for granted today, and how many more things will be enabled by this revolution. So it's sometimes called a fourth wave of innovation, and this time we're not talking about bits like 0 and 1 in software, in coding. We're talking more about bits and atoms. So we're building physical things, things that you can touch. Of course, there is software inside, but there is a lot of material science and material science development that enables certain new functionalities. And usually, deep technologies, they combine more than one technology areas. It might be life science and material science, might be physics breakthrough with software and robotics. So you will see cross-dimensional teams, multifunctional teams working on certain innovations that will not anymore come from a single domain of science. So you need to have multiple puzzles at the table to build a new value. And finally, what I think is really interesting is that there is a general weakening of certain obstacles that can stop this type of innovations. In the past, you would think about groundbreaking innovations, maybe Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, some very localized hotspots where meaningful innovations were taking part. But today, the barriers to get to the table are becoming lower, and you will see more and more geographies starting to significantly contribute to global technological changes and revolutions. Why? Because it's so easy to get access to knowledge. Again, I mentioned internet. I can read the same research papers as anyone in Princeton and Harvard or Yale can do. I do it from Breslau, from Wrocław in Poland. I have the same access. I can buy scientific tools that are not not so much expensive as they were, maybe prohibitive to have them in different countries before. And I have a good education. I have access to strong computing powers from the computer revolution that was empowered over the last decades. So I really have almost the same tools and toys that I need as anyone else in the world. I just need my brain to put it together and really enjoy it. In terms of deep technologies, we're also standing on the shoulders of breakthrough science development, nanotechnology, material science technologies over the last decades that were fundamental developments, more fundamental basic science. But now I am happy enough that I'm living in a time where I can actually take these puzzles, these bits, and build like Lego blocks and build new technologies that will change the way some of the products that are surrounding us are created, and they will create new products. Just as an example, again, from the same report, what are these different areas of deep technologies? And this slide shows how much money was invested in the venture capital scene globally in the year 2020, but it's more to just to show you different groups of these deep technologies. Life science, artificial intelligence that was described in the previous talk, advanced materials, drones and robotics, photonics and electronics, that's the field maybe where I feel closest to, quantum computing, blockchain, and so on. And you will see that 2/3 of that are actually going into life science and artificial intelligence, or at least that was in 2020. So there is a certain bias towards certain technologies. Maybe there's, because of that, there is more understanding among investors to properly select the right candidates for winners in these areas. But generally, deep technologies, they are not limited to just life science or artificial intelligence at all. Unfortunately, not all of these promising candidates will become successful. And statistically, most of them will be not successful, at least not to the measure that we expect them to be, not to a measure to excel, to really go beyond our expectations and be one of the big winners, like in the talk from Dr. Leber, that the ones in the graph that are much to the left on the scale of the return percentage, right? So, and this is actually something that I find very intriguing and very inspiring for decisions that we're making in our company. Why is it so difficult if you have a, let's say, groundbreaking technology to come to a sustainable business model that will create significant value? And what I see is that most of the time, statistically, the biggest problem is actually that these technologies do not solve a real problem. Yeah? They are very often created by researchers. I am a researcher by training, so that was my first career. I was doing a lot of research. So I know that we researchers, we fall in love in technologies, but the technology is a technology. Technology is usually not a product. A product is a product. And this change, how to come from interesting technology to a product that can be sold and that people are ready to pay value and put their resources on this new technology, this is this huge switch that is very difficult in these young deep technology companies, which very often are spin-offs from universities, startups from research centers. So they are driven by people who have this technology-driven mindset, not the problem-solving mindset of a given market. So that's the challenge. So why don't the big corporations don't solve all of these problems? They have all the resources they have all manpower, extremely talented people on the payroll. So why do we even need these small, young, risky entrepreneurial companies to solve problems if we have this already existing giants? So usually, and there are always exceptions, but usually the big corporations are becoming best in improving what already exists. 10% improvement, 10% improvement, 10% improvement year over year, and they excel, and that's great, and that's how it's supposed to be. But every now and then, you need this 10x revolution, not a gradual improvement, but there comes a time, every now and then, there is this tipping point, like with popcorn, that you really will see there is something changes in a dramatic way, and usually this is not the best. These processes of managing these revolutions are usually not best incubated inside of the bigger corporations with their processes, with their way of thinking, with their way of doing things. And again, it's not a criticism, it's just an objective description of how I see it statistically happening. So on one hand, you have these risky young companies with maybe some mindset issues, and on the other hand, you have powerful corporations also working not towards maybe this 10x growth. So try to find the ones that are in the middle that will give you hope for this bigger breakthrough. And these 4 big questions that the deep technology observers and enthusiasts are trying to ask when looking into new ventures, and these are the ones that I also recommend you to maybe ask yourself if you find this field interesting, are the questions related to the Copernicus moment. So could the reality be different? Is the way we do things today, could it be done differently, and would it be better if it would be done differently? The Newtonian moment, is there a way to make this vision possible? Like, is there a way? Armstrong moment, like with landing on the moon, take the first step, can we build it today? and Asimov moment from a little bit science fiction and storytelling, but also very pragmatic. What does it take to make this a new reality? Like, we can build it, yes. We can imagine the new reality, yes. But will the cost structure will be meaningful, that this will be propagated globally at the rate that makes sense and will not just become a small niche because it will be always too slow, always too expensive, will never meet the requirements of the bigger industry. So this is a nice framework to try to look at this interesting and exciting landscape of deep technologies that I suggest and that I highly recommend. Now, two examples of companies, still not XTPL, but other companies that I like to explain how these deep technologies can bring significant value if the team plays it right and if you potentially as an investor have the patience to and the stomach to stay with the team for a while, because usually it will take longer than everyone expected. OLED revolution, flat panel displays that we'll have in our phones, in laptops, in TVs. They were done with, at some point with liquid crystal display technology, LCDs, very famous. And in the year 87, the two researchers from Kodak Eastman, they discovered OLED materials and OLED technology, organic light emission displays. That shown in the graph here would supposed to be so much easier to manufacture, so many layers less, so much effort in making this display less and with higher light intensity, with better conversion electricity to light emission. So only advantages, but it took almost 25 to 30 years from the invention to the first products being on the market. 2004, the first Sony OLED screen, and LG made it in 2010. Now, which companies now, in this frame of the problem, OLED revolution, which companies and how they performed? And there are two positive examples. So the one that I really like is actually a German-based company, Novalet, from Dresden, founded by extremely talented scientist and OLED pioneer, Professor Carleo, who I respect very much. The company, after a few years of initial fundamental development of the OLED technology at the university in Dresden, Technical University in Dresden, they founded a company called Novalet 2001, which 12 years later was acquired by Samsung for $350 million. I think it's a nice success story for such a young company, still 12 years old, and at the year of acquisition, the revenue was around 30 million euros. So still not a huge revenue generation, and they got a 10x revenue multiplier for this exit with just 130 people on the team. And what I want to stress in this graph is take a look at the revenue. So this is a graph that I took from a research thesis from Karlsruhe Institute of Technology that tracked their development. The first few years, you see hardly any revenue. Yeah? So this is, if you would apply this linear extrapolation that we heard in the previous talk, you would say, well, something is not going right? Zero revenue, zero revenue, zero revenue. How this company should be sustainable? And then at some point, there is this tipping point. Things get ready, they start to get market traction, and then depending if the founders want to have an exit or they want to build a sustainable long-term business, there will be a good exit, or maybe a big company can be built around it. So patience was needed, but then the reward comes. Even bigger reward come for people who were following the company called Universal Display Corporation. And again, I'm talking about this OLED revolution just as an example. A company started in 1994 after the founder visited the Princeton laboratory and saw a small green blinking light that disappeared after a few seconds because it was not stable. And they decided to build a company around it, which had a negative results for, I think, almost 20 years or close to 20 years as a company. But now the revenue is over $600 million with net income of 200 million, and their valuation today is roughly $7 billion because they are publicly traded. And here, I'm not so much focused on the big numbers. I really want to show you the dates. 1994, company was founded. After 17 years, they hit the $1 billion market cap valuation. And then it grew for the next decades, and probably they will keep on growing if the market keeps like this, because they have a very strong position with their patent portfolio and so on. So it takes a lot of patience. It takes this market orientation. It takes a while to create solutions that are really fitting to what the market needs. But then when it flies, it really can fly very high. Now, I want to switch to what we're doing at XTPL. So I hope I could convince you a little bit about that deep technologies can be interesting. Next wave of innovations that will be impacting our daily lives, and they will be more about atoms and bits than just bits. So not just pure software, there will be more and more physical products around it, but based on fundamental science and the research that will be focused on the right problems to solve. And secondly, I show you two examples of that it needs some patience, but once this first popcorn starts to pop, the others will come, and then the growth starts. And I hope I can, in the next slide, show you that we are also getting very close, at least close to the tipping point. And I'm talking about that in a very humble way, without overconfidence, without understanding that there is still a lot of hard work for us, but also being proud that what we have achieved so far is getting us a good momentum and a positive outlook for the future. So for us, the big Copernicus questions, can the world be different, and in which way, is the way we're manufacturing electronics today, flat panel displays, semiconductors, printed circuit boards, many electronic parts that are surrounding us more and more in every bit and every detail. Can this manufacturing process be different? And what are the big megatrends that are forcing actually the answer to this question to be yes, the manufacturing of electronics has to be different, because we still need a future miniaturization, smaller and smaller electronics using less and less energy. The big thing that is coming to that is that the form factor of electronics will change. We are used to black boxes, and we say, okay, that's fine, it's a black box, I use this, you know, drop my head to see what's happening there. This is not optimal, and at some point it will change. Now we can live with it maybe for some years, but I don't think this is a solution, right? So there will be more three-dimensional, more flexible shapes of electronics. There will be light, they will be closer to our bodies. We will see more and more interface between electronics and our bodies to help us navigate all of this information that is getting to us. So changing the forms and the three-dimensionality, actually to me, to my small world, it translates to the fact that the machines that produce this electronics, they will also have to be different. They will not work anymore on sheet to sheet, layer by layer type of manufacturing. They will need to adopt to this new thing. So that's good for me, right? Because it's actually showing that if I'm doing the right things, I can catch the big moment of this revolution. And the third big trend, not just for electronics, I think we see it everywhere, but in electronics also very fair and very urgent, I would say, is the green manufacturing. Like, can we really dig a lot of rare earth materials from many places in the world and then waste 99% of that in the manufacturing process because it's so inefficient, because we accept this inefficiency, using masking processes and creating a lot of waste. Some of that is toxic waste. I mean, for now, we did accept that. Yeah? We said, okay, that's the price for innovation. Maybe we didn't even look into that because who cares? But now we do care. We want to understand why. Does it really make sense to be so inefficient with these precious materials and creating a lot of unwanted toxic waste? So these three megatrends are actually showing us that there could be a window of opportunity. If you could do it differently, maybe you can do it better. So I'm one of the believers of that you can do it differently and better. And this is just an example of some displays that they will become more three-dimensional. They will come semi-transparent. Maybe you will have it in the windows. You will have it in the glasses. Many of us wear glasses. It's not a big problem, so why not use this infrastructure that is already on our head to give us more power, to give us more information, to give us more intelligence, and help us gather all of the information that we have maybe to our personal assistant that was discussed about the the artificial intelligence. So big changes are coming, and they require different tools. I'm the guy who's making tools, but tools need to serve the purpose of how the electronics is being manufactured. So you will know that there is a new wave of innovations around so-called additive manufacturing. 3D printing, that's a big word, and many times we think about physical products that are bigger, we think about prototyping, we think maybe it's slow, maybe it's cute, maybe it's nice for schools, but is there really a place for additive manufacturing in big industries, in the high throughput, high speed industries where speed, precision, reproducibility are really needed? And I believe yes. And this is actually what we're doing. We're doing printing. We're doing printing at a very fine scale, and a scale that is 100 times smaller than the width of the human hair, printing individual micrometers and even nanometer structures with a small pen that I will show you in a video in a moment. The pen that is writing, but is not writing colors, but is writing metals, semiconductors, insulators, all the building blocks that you need to build electronics of the future. And why looking into additive manufacturing at this nanoscale can be interesting? Well, because it actually saves a lot of materials. We use 99% of material when printing, not wasting 99% of material. That's like a sculptor who takes a big granite stone and makes a beautiful sculpture, and then this expensive stone is mostly lying on the floor in the form of some waste. So if he would have a 3D printer, he could use 100% of the stone if he could liquefy it and design it in the right way, of course. But it's not only about the material saving, it's also about simplification of the process flow from multiple manufacturing steps, and you see it in the, on this side of the table, of the graph, from multiple steps that are used in a standard way, many machines, many waste, many energy needed. You can replace it with just one step, and that brings a lot of value as well. And obviously, this three-dimensional shape that I was mentioning already is very important to us as well. So I'm not going into details of the any hardcore technology. If there are any questions, I would love to take them. But the important thing is that the fundamental technology that we developed is about high-resolution printing. The printer we have at home prints with a certain resolution that's good enough for us to read. We print with 100 times better resolution, and again, our paints are not just colors, it's really about liquid metals, liquid semiconductors, and passivation inks that are relevant for electronic manufacturing. And we are not the only ones who are looking into that field. I always like to say about other players who also see this opportunity, and there are names of some companies in the green box that I also, if you find this area interesting, I would recommend looking into the way they approach the market. These are also younger companies. There are companies that take a little bit different approach. And the reason I'm showing that is not to say that they are better or we are better or they are faster or we are slower or whatever. It's really more to show you that there is this bottom-up approach that in many places, in US, in Europe, in Asian countries, there are companies growing like the small seeds. We've seen in the presentation of Dr. Leber that some of them will build, will grow as a big forest or maybe standalone trees and will have a significant value. I'm hoping that XTPL will be one of the winners, and that's why my 300% passion and work. But this is more to show you that there is something happening, and the others see it. So maybe it's inspiring, maybe it's interesting for you to also look into that. Now, if I'm lucky, probably, I'm not sure if I can play the video here. So, yeah, not sure if I can switch the video because it skips directly to the next slide. And actually here there would be a small video of our printing process. Maybe it's not working right now, so I will skip that. I can only promise you that whatever you would see there would be a very small pen writing very complicated patterns, and the pen would be the size of 100 times smaller than the width of the human hair. And to control the pen, manufacture the pen, control the ink, to have this right precision is actually something we excel, and it took us 8 years to get here. As we move forward, we obviously want to build a good patent protection around what we're doing. So we have over 20 patent applications filed, 7 patents already granted. So trying to do the smart thing and be ready for the big marketing integrations. And the way we answer our question, how the technology of fine printing should become a product that people can buy. Yeah? Technology is nice, you can prove that it works, but people want to buy a product that solves their problem, that solves their need. And for us, it was actually part of this big transition of our company life, and I'm sharing that again just as a learning opportunity or inspiration to show you that it is still a long way from promising technology to first products that can be marketed. We build our products around our printing technology in the form of printers and a form of inks that we bring into the market, and we're bringing it to the markets of semiconductors manufacturing. Very exciting field. Semiconductors are powering most of the decision-making in cars, in computers. Artificial intelligence will not exist without it. So there will be more and more of semiconductor manufacturing with more and more geographical distribution because of tensions around China and Taiwan. So there has to be certain semiconductor independence in Europe and in US, and it will come. And with that, there will come also place for players to start to come to the value chain creation around this as well. The flat panel display industry, for us, very interesting. We have good collaborations in Korea and with US partners around that. And finally, the printed circuit board markets. It's all connected around microelectronics. So this is what we do. And in some slides, I just want to share with you my enthusiasm that we have, after 7 years of hard work, and good news and bad news and whatever comes with this growing pains that you have at the beginning, we have now initial lock-in of and commercial confirmation that our technology will work with giant partners in printed circuit boards, with giant partners in semiconductors, and giant partners with flat panel displays. It's still a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we have formed initial partnerships with really significant players in this industry, so we will be becoming part of their value chain. And the way we want to get there is by taking our printing head, essentially the brain of the printing system, and put it in the machines of big machine builders that are already part of the relevant supply chains, so we can use their experience, their sales channels, and so on, and we just supply one component, but this component is actually the one we believe is quite critical. Our printers, the smaller printers, are good for research and development, for prototyping. We're bringing them to different innovators, and here I want to tell you why I think it makes sense to also bring your technology to people who are innovating, who are in science, in academia. I think if you're just targeting academia, there is a certain glass ceiling in terms of how big your market can be. But if you work with very talented people in academia, they will actually push you to your product to become better and to find new ways of using this product, new application fields, new markets. And so for me, it's like a vaccine that we put to different universities globally, and they help us work on our technology, and we can access their brains and their talents. In Germany, we have installation in Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, University of Stuttgart, and the Humboldt University of Berlin, sorry. And in the final part, I want to show you again this initial maybe proof that there is this tipping point happening. And it's not so much as an investor presentation, it's more about trying to show you the previous story about the OLED companies. We started in 2015. 2015, 0 commercial revenue, no sales. 16, 0 revenue. 17, 0 revenue. 18, 0 revenue. 19, 0 revenue. 20, 10,000 euro revenue. The numbers are in Polish zloty, so you have to divide it by 4.5 maybe. Yeah? 2021, 500,000 euro revenue. That's something that you can already put in the Excel and maybe see that something is happening, right? 3 million euro last year, so 5x growth year over year. And now we're getting to a point where we believe we proved our technology, we forged the first important partnership, and we want to become this Intel Inside thing that if you will buy electronic product in 3-5 years from now, there will be XTPL nanotechnology somewhere inside. You don't have to know where it is. It's somewhere inside, but it helps to make your product work better, faster, and we put ourselves under the framework of looking strategically to the next 3.5 years to grow 10x. And it's an official presentation, so it's not any secret that our goal as a company to go from the 10 million Polish zloty, again, roughly 3 million euro, to 100 in 3.5 years by the end of 2026. So this will be a significant growth period for us with many risks on the table, with many challenges on the table, but this will not be the end of the story that we are hoping to write for the European technologies and the deep technologies history that I hope will be happening and is actually happening in many countries in Europe right now. Yeah, so in the spirit of time, maybe I just show you this small table and I introduce you to the two companies, Universal Display Corporation and Novalet. When they were founded, what was the age, what was the valuation? So we are still, with 8 years old, we're still a very young company for a deep tech company. So we're just getting the initial traction. But if things go well, I think we can grow. And I'm so much grateful to Dr. Leber and the whole Acatis family for the support that we got as a company over the last years, because this support was actually something that brought us to the point where we are today. And the first time we met, I think it was really early stage. We were just going away from the garage laboratory that we had in Wrocław, in Breslau, in Poland. And that time, it was not easy to trust us. It was not easy to support us. There were not so many numbers, so not so many business reasons to say, okay, let's support this team, let's help them grow. So I'm really thankful for that, and I'm thankful for your attention. I hope this discussion can help you look in a friendly way to different deep technology companies in Europe and globally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Philip. You're the first one who keeps time for us. We have time for questions now. Und den Hinweis, dass das Video auch im Internet, the video is also in the Internet,
okay,
for someone who wants to see.
Perfect.
Okay. Fragen können Sie auf Deutsch oder Englisch stellen, weil Philipp, wie gesagt, auch Deutsch versteht. Ja, gerne.
Hello? Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for the, I'm here. Sorry, I should stand up. Thanks for the presentation, very interesting. I really only have one short question, which is how do you monetize? Do you just sell to whatever semiconductor production equipment maker and that's it? Or do you make money from selling, I don't know, the liquids on that presentation as well? That's basically it, thanks.
Yeah. So we want to have both. We sell the printing head, so the one-time sell, and then there is a recurring revenue of the inks, and we call them consumable parts, small nozzles. So once the customer puts our printing engine into his machine, we will keep on profiting from that relationship long term. Yeah.
Okay, ja. Haben wir noch irgendwo? Once more question.
Ich mach's auf Deutsch, Herr Dr. Granek. Ne? Wir haben uns ja schon öfters mal unterhalten, auch über die Thematik mit die Verbindung Ihrer Tinten mit Ihren Druckköpfen. Das heißt, mit Ihren Druckköpfen können Sie auch nur die Tinten auftragen oder die Materialien auftragen, die Sie selber herstellen und die Sie auch den Kunden verkaufen. Und wenn ich mich recht erinnere, war der Preis für diese Materialien ziemlich hoch. Meinen Sie, dass das vielleicht ein Hinderungsgrund ist, dass dem einen oder anderen Kunden das Druckmaterial zu teuer ist?
Yeah, so I will respond in English, but I understand your question. So we look at two sides of this business. One is enabling this high resolution printing of various liquids. Ideally our liquids, because that's good for us. But we have customers who want to work with their own liquids, and we find an agreement how they can use this technology and still be giving us a recurring revenue if they work with their proprietary liquids. So it's not a tool that is limited to only XTPL liquids. And why I think it's important to have this open platform. First of all, we are too small to think about so many different liquids that people will need. So I rather sell them the printing part and open the platform for them to experiment with their own liquids, maybe help them tune their liquids with our know-how if needed. Yeah? So that's one. The other thing is, are our liquids too expensive? Well, for the people who buy it, obviously not. For the people who do not buy it, maybe yes, right? And we're trying, to find but to be serious, this is actually one of our strategical goals, and maybe discoveries. Now they seem obvious, but the discovery was that if we want to bring this high-end product with a meaningful revenue to the market, we have to target high-end products first. The high-end products is like a semiconductor flat panel display. My initial goal with my experience with photovoltaic solar cells, I thought this technology will be relevant for photovoltaics. But photovoltaics, they cost maybe, I don't know, 10 euro for square meter of product. Semiconductor costs thousands of euro per square meter of product. So it's easier to find your cost margin in such a high-end product. So that was our goal, which also means that probably there will be markets where today we will be too expensive, and we're not trying to attack them today.
Wir hatten heute Morgen mal kurz darüber gesprochen, den Druck von menschlichen Zellen, also die sozusagen aus dem Körper entnommen werden, gezüchtet werden und so, das macht eine italienische Firma. Könnten Sie sich vorstellen, dass Sie da in diesen kleinen Bereichen solches Material verdrucken können? Ja, also jetzt gehen wir mal nur aus diesem Semiconductor-Bereich raus. Es gibt ja auch andere hochmargige Branchen, wie zum Beispiel die ganze Medizintechnik. Ne?
Yeah, definitely that's extremely exciting. That's something we probably will want to do in the future. But also now, the meaningful thing for us is to stay focused and disciplined, because we are still too small to try to grab too many opportunities at the same time. So we're making choices. I hope most of them are good, right? That's what I have to hope. But bioprinting is very exciting, yes.
Okay, danke.
Ich habe mal von Ihnen eine E-Mail bekommen aus Fukuoka in Japan. Und da sagten Sie, das ist eine OLED-Konferenz oder auch mit Virtual Reality und solchen Themen. Warum würden Sie dort sprechen? Was wollen die Leute von Ihnen?
Yeah, so if you can imagine that today we have, and just an example, let's say this display has 1 million of pixels. Yeah? If I want to have this display close to my eyes, because I don't want to do this in 5 years from now, right? I really don't want that. I want to have it closer to my eye. I just need to see it. I don't need to hold it. Then I need to fit this 1 million pixels on a much smaller area. Everything needs to become smaller. And the way the panels are manufactured today, and these classical technologies that they use, is actually limited in terms of how fine you can go. And these are the areas where we can shine, where we can bring value that is maybe not relevant for a bigger display, because they solved this problem already and it works. So we are always looking for this enabling factor where we can do something that was not possible before, because probably we will not do cheaper what the big companies are doing on the mass scale right now. Yeah.
Mhm. Noch die nächste Frage. Ich war bei Applied Materials in der Präsentation und habe Ihnen geschrieben, das wäre doch was für Sie. Und Sie haben gesagt, könnte sein, dass wir vielleicht mit denen schon reden. Bei Applied Materials ging es um die Frage Chips in der dritten Dimension. Die müssen verbunden werden. Was wäre da Ihre potenzielle Rolle?
Yeah, so one of the very big names that you're naming in the industry, and indeed, because the NDAs are signed, I cannot comment too much, but the thing in semiconductors now is, on one hand, you want to make things smaller, but there is also a limit how fast you can make it smaller, and you need more and more power. So people start to stack it in the third dimension, like in the real estate, right? The expensive area is you build high, and the cheap areas you don't have to build high. So in semiconductors, they go higher and higher, and they need an elevator to connect from between different floors. But the very high resolution elevator. So this is actually one of the areas where, if I would be able to show the video, you will see how our printing pen is printing over many steps and going to many directions, also going from top to bottom, not just from left to right. Yeah?
Okay, letzte Frage.
Yeah, I don't know enough about technologies like this, so I can't ask any intelligent question. I just have the information for the audience. When you started to speak, your shares had been flat. To next day, now they increased by more than 4%, and I saw some people looking on their smartphones here.
Well, that's nice, but if this is the case, then thanks to anyone who participated. But the real goal for us is really this long-term endurance curve. And the quarterly developments are important, yearly developments are important, but if we will be successful, we really want to be successful over 10 years and 20 years from now. So if there are movements up and down, and for such a small company with still limited liquidity, there will be always some movements up and down. But the important thing is that if we do our business right, I hope the share price will follow. It will help my personal wealth, obviously, but it will also help the young entrepreneurs to push it, and maybe it will be inspiring for everyone. Thank you so much.